Hi everyone, I'm Kelly and this is my channel Kel Stitches. Today I am going to do my second stitch with me. I am going to be working on this one, which is Bengal Tigers 2. This is one of the patterns that my mother-in-law gifted me quite a few years, probably 3 years or so back now, for I think it was for Christmas or something like that. And this is where I will be starting on it. So all of this is just white stitching, so I'm not even going to have to follow a pattern. I will mark it off on Pattern Keeper just so I know how many stitches I have done in the time that this video goes for. So let's get into it. So I cinched my last stitch with me. I did do a whip update last week where I showed the progress on my 4 whips, and I had the 2 finishes, which was Anzac and the small long dog. I'm not even going to pronounce that name because I butcher it every time. That is the little woofy one that I finished and framed. And they were both by Long Dog Samplers, so I finished those. I've been working, back to work, had Thursday off. We went for a little bit of a, my partner and I went for a little bit of a picnic on Thursday, just to get out of the house and do something that's not work related. He basically stays at home looking after the horses and everything, so it's really the only chance that he's got to get out and about because he doesn't have his license. So yeah, we went out for a little bit of a picnic at a local, it was actually at our, it's called Shannon Creek Dam, which is where our water gets collected, and it's a massive dam that is where our town supply is taken from, and then it goes through the treatment plants and it gets treated with fluoride and chlorine and God knows what else they put in it. But yeah, so, and it's got a bit of a, got a couple of picnic areas out there, and it's a little bit bushy. Got a little small walking track. I think it's a 1.4 kilometre walking track out there. So we went out there, had a bit of a picnic. No sooner had we sat down, I don't think we'd even sat down at the picnic tables, that 2 magpies flew in and landed on the table beside us. And we were eating our lunch, our chicken and salad rolls, and these magpies, little buggers, they were so quiet. One of them came up and was trying to peck the food out of my hand while I was eating it. I think it must have been a breeding pair, a male and a female. The female was a little bit standoffish, as they usually are, and the male, he was so brazen, he just came up and just eyeballed me and was looking at me like, well, come on, missus, give me something to eat. So I couldn't help myself, I did. And then I did take a couple of little videos of them, which I might put in at the end of this one. Just a couple of little clips. I think they're only about 30 seconds, 30 seconds long in them, just to show you how quiet they are, or they were. And yeah, and I mean, that's not unusual for us. Wherever we happen to go, we have the wildlife just flock to us, basically. We'll be sitting down and we'll just have everything coming around us. And it's the same here at home. Every place we've lived, we have just managed to have so much wildlife come in and take up residence. And I don't know if it's because we don't use a lot of pesticides or insecticides or anything like that. We try to use as little herbicides, so poisons on the weeds and that, as we possibly can. We don't cut down the trees or the bushes or the shrubs or anything that's growing up. I mean, obviously if they're causing an issue we do, but we generally just let things go. We're not even big ones on slashing our paddocks all the time, and slashing the long grass down, because the horses, you come into winter and you got nothing if you take it all away. But yeah, and that's, I mean, here at home we have magpies. We've got a pair of magpies that have been here since we first moved in, and they every year have bred their chicks, and once the chicks have fledged, they bring them into the yard and leave them there for us to babysit while mum and dad go off to find some food. And then they'll come back and feed them, and then they'll fly off, make sure that we're still in the vicinity, keeping an eye on their babies, and then they'll fly off for some more food. And they've done that every year. And they don't swoop us because they know that we're not going to cause any issues with them. They've actually saved me a couple of times from snakes, where I've been walking down the paddock and the next minute all I can hear is an absolute ruckus from our magpies, and they come flying past me and start squawking and carrying on, and lo and behold, there is a snake in the grass in front of me. So make friends with nature and they will help you out. But that's just been us. We are nature lovers. We just love them. We also have black cockatoos that come around. Actually, they're the soft-crested black cockatoos that come around every year. I think I've got a couple of photos of those that I can put in at the end if I can find them. They usually take up residence on our water troughs where the horses are, and use that as their drinking holes in the seasons. We've had pheasants, wild quails, rosellas, galahs, corellas, lorikeets. They're actually, the lorikeets are currently in our mandarin tree, absolutely annihilating the mandarins, the little buggers. Better the lorikeets than the fruit bats, I guess. But yes, so we've always had animals come in. We've got our residents, water dragons that live here in the yard. We've got, I think that might be pretty much it that I can think of. Oh, we've had a couple of wild hares living in the back paddocks. As I said, we get everything in here. Oh, get the kangaroos, of course, come bounding through the paddocks. Horses aren't too keen on those boingy things. They eyeball them and make sure that they keep passing through rather than sticking around to eat the grass. But yeah, so here we were having our picnic, and these two magpies just decided to come and join us. So yes, I will put those couple of little videos in at the end of this one, as well as a few other photos, if I can find the ones of the sulphur-crested cockatoos. Oh, funny thing was, we often get the corellas and the galahs come in at certain times of the year, because when the grass gets long and it goes to seed, they come in for the seed. And there had to been one time that there had to have been 100 in this flock of birds. And one of my mares, whose name is Charm, she was down in the back corner of her paddock, and she was just pottering around doing her own thing, and the next minute the heads just come up. You could see her looking at these birds like, what the heck are all these things? So she's just plodding up the paddock, getting closer and closer to see what these things were. And you could see the moment in her that she's gone, hang on, no, they're eating my grass. So she's just started running. She just full on galloped through this whole flock of birds. And of course, they've just gone up in this great big cloud. And as soon as they lifted into the air, she stopped and looked around and went back to grazing. So she wasn't real impressed with them being in her paddock at all. But yeah, we do get a lot of nature and wildlife around our place. So yeah, what else did I do since you last seen me in my whip update on my floss tube? Working, that's basically it, and stitching. I have stitched on most of my projects, I think, and there might be a couple of new starts to show in next week's floss tube. So yeah, I've done them, or if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably already seen those new starts. The boss went away for 5 days on holidays, which she totally deserved, because she works 7 days a week. Doesn't have a break, so she totally deserved going on a bit of a holiday. She's back tomorrow, and the place didn't fall apart without her, so that was a bonus. My next day off is on Thursday, so I'm not sure what we'll do. We might go, I don't know whether we'll go for another bit of a bushwalk, or whether we'll go back down to one of the beaches or something and do a bit more whale watching. It is whale season here in Australia. Whale season runs from, I think it's the end of April, start of May, through to about October, November. And that's where the whales head up the coast, head up north to the warmer weather, warmer waters, I should say, where they tend to give birth, and then they turn around and head back south. Which I would totally do the same thing if I was pregnant. I would head to the warmer weather to give birth rather than stick around in the cold. So yeah, that's the wrap up of my week. What else? Alright, so I might talk a little bit about my style of stitching. It probably comes as no big surprise to those of you that have watched a few of my videos that I am a full coverage stitcher. Full coverage is my jam. Whether it's a small, a medium or a large, I don't really care. As long as I like the subject that I'm stitching, I will do it. I like full coverage because it's all full crosses. There's generally not any back stitching if they've been designed well. And the companies that I support, the full coverage, or the designers that I support, they all design their full coverage charts well that you don't need back stitching for them. Another good thing with full coverage is there's no, oops, just drop my needle between my legs. There is no fractional stitches to be dealt with, so there's no quarter stitches or anything like that. Not that I can't do them, I just don't want to do them. I don't want to be fiddling around with them small petite stitches or quarter stitches or anything like that. It's just takes the fun out of it for me, to be honest. So yes, full coverage is my go-to. I have been getting into a few of the samplers, but in saying that, I'm not a traditional sampler type of a person. I much prefer long dog samplers, or even modern folk embroidery. Some of his are absolutely lovely. They're the type of samplers that I like, not your little kitschy ones or your traditional type of ones. I can see the beauty in the other samplers. It just doesn't talk to me. It doesn't scream at me to stitch them. So yeah, it's just not my thing at all. So yeah, you won't find me stitching a lot of like Plum Street samplers and who's the other ones? All those small kitschy blackbird designs and all those sort of ones. You won't find me stitching any of those. Another one that I probably won't ever stitch is your Mirabilias, your Bella Filipinas, any of your fancy ladies. They just don't, they are absolutely gorgeous, don't get me wrong, and whoever can have the patience to sit and stitch on those to the finished product, kudos to you, because they are gorgeous and I can see the beauty in them, but once again, they are just not my cup of tea. I can't see me doing any of them. Then again, I might not have just come across one that I absolutely love yet. Who knows? Can never say never, but I'm pretty confident that I won't ever stitch one of those. I've looked at Chatelaines as well. They're lovely, but they don't call to me. They don't sing out to me. So yes, full coverage and long dog sampler types. They're my go-to. They are my happy spot. They are my happy stitching spot. Now I stitch cross by cross because I just find it easier, especially doing full coverage, especially if you've got heavy confetti. I stitch by page. So when I'm stitching, I will mark out my page borders. I don't grid. I just mark out my page borders and I stitch by page. I have never had an issue with page lines in my stitching doing it that way. I find it, a lot of it has to do with your tension of your stitches. If you can keep your tension relatively even, I should say, sorry. If you can keep your stitches relatively even, it helps. A lot of people tend to pull tighter on the edges, which then creates or causes that page line to occur. I don't park. I can't deal with all those bits of hanging thread. So I stitch until I have finished my length of floss, or until I've done all the stitches of that colour in that page. So on the page that I stitch, that I'm stitching on, because of Pattern Keeper, it is a lot easier. On paper patterns it is a little bit harder, but I still do it, and it takes longer. I will find the colour with the least amount of stitches on that page. I will start with that one, and I will jump all over the page doing those colours, doing that colour, and then I'll go to the next one with the least amount, and I'll keep working like that until I am left with the colour with the most amount of stitches. And that way also all that travelled thread on the back gets covered over, stitched over with the others, with the most amount. As I said, I do cross by cross because in full coverage heavy confetti pieces it is easier rather than doing all halves and then having to go back and fill them in. I tend to find, I did try that for a while and I found that I missed so many on the way back that cross by cross is the way I do it now. I can't remember if that's the English or if it's the Danish method, but however you stitch, that's the way you stitch. Whatever is comfortable for you and makes you happy is how you should do it. Style. Type of needles that I use was a question. I just use whatever needles I've got because I buy a lot of CXC from AliExpress and China. Sometimes they give you a pack of needles with as a gift. So I've got packs of needles that I just use those ones. I haven't really got a specification on what type of needles I use. I find they go all right. They don't tarnish too bad. And if it breaks, well, I've got plenty more in there. So they're the type of needles that I use and stitch with. I know a lot of people are getting into using the ball tip needles, but I'm happy with using the ones that I do. Just trying to see what else. I was asked on how I keep my stitches so neat or pointers on how to make your stitches neat and tidy when you're using two threads. I don't have any pointers because I don't really bother. I separate the two strands at the start so they're not twisted around each other. But other than that, I just stitch. I don't have any pointers. I know some people railroad their stitches to keep them neat. But yeah, that's not, I don't do that. I just stitch. Alright, so yeah, that's all I've really got to talk about with my stitchy stuff. Oh, funny, I got some over-dyed floss in the mail today, and usually I open it when the partner's not around, so then I can get rid of the receipt. But anyway, I couldn't help myself, and I opened this parcel of floss, and he was like, "Oh, is that all that's in there?" I think he was expecting a lot more, and I was like, "Yeah." And he grabbed the receipt and he goes, "What? You paid that much for how many?" And he's trying to count them. And I mean, there was 12 of them. One of them I didn't receive because it's on back order. And I was like, yeah, they're over-dyed. Like, they're specialty threads. They're not just any normal thread. And he's just looked at me like, well, he actually said, "Are you effing crazy?" Well, that is debatable. I've always said I'm not crazy. I'm not going crazy. I already am crazy. And then I've turned around and I said to him, "Well, you don't want to know how much my silk flosses cost." And the look on his face, and he goes, "No, please don't tell me." So I don't think he'll be looking at any of my receipts that come with any of my cross-stitching stuff anymore. I don't think he really wants to know how much I'm spending. But as I said to him, if I didn't have the spare money and we couldn't afford it, I would not be buying them. I'm not that silly. I'm not going to buy expensive flosses and fabrics and stuff like that when the money could be spent on something else if we're struggling. But we're not at the moment, so I am going to spend it while I can. But yeah, so he was a little bit shocked at the price of the over-dyed flosses. Here in Australia, for Weeks Dye Works, you're paying, and for your Gentle Art samplers, all those over-dyeds, you're paying $4.50 in Australian dollars for a scheme of those, which probably is a little bit crazy, but some patterns just call for those, and I have heard that the DMC conversion for those ones aren't as good as the actual overdyes, and I bought them for the Year in the Woods series. I've got up to number 5, which is the ferret, I think. I'm going to wait until the ferret, the bear, the eagle, and whatever July's is, wait for them to come out, to be out, and I'll buy them all together. And then I'll get the last 4 all together. But in the meantime, I'm just going to be buying the overdyes for them as I can, because we've been having a lot of issues here in Australia on getting the overdyes. I know all the shops that I've looked at, they've all been out of stock in certain colours. Grecian gold is one of the hardest. If I can't get it, I think I am going to have to go with the DMC conversion, but I'm hoping not to have to do that. But yeah, here in Australia we have been having issues with getting all those overdyes. A lot of the shops are out of stock and they're on back order and stuff like that. So don't know what's going on with the dye, the manufacturers in America, but hopefully things will be sorted soon and we can get those flosses back in. But yeah, we were, partner and I were talking the other day about, because here in town we used to have a really good craft store where it was your typical old, I'm talking 24, 25 years ago, we had a really, really good craft store. Old style craft store that had all your old patterns, that had all your flosses and your kits and all that sort of stuff, cross stitch, tapestry, embroidery, all your needlework. They used to hold classes on a regular basis that you went in and you learned how to sew a quilt, or you went in and you learned how to do tapestry or anything like that. And it was an older couple, they were friends of ours. Moira ran the crafty side, the front of house, like the front side, customer relations side of it. And Mackie, he was a framer, and he was one of the best framers here that I've ever seen. I had him frame a few of my pieces back way back that I gave away. Beautiful framing job, and he'd done it the old way of lacing on the back. I know before COVID and all the lockdowns and everything, I put out a question on Facebook about framers in town, and everyone came back with one particular framer, and I was like, well, can you tell me, do they know what they're doing with fibre crafts? So do they know what they're doing with needlework, cross stitching, anything like that? Oh yeah, they know what they're doing. And I said, well, do they lace or do they use sticky board? Oh, they use sticky board. And straight up I was like, no, don't want to use them, because I want the old style. When I want it professionally framed, I want it laced properly. And everyone chucked up a stink at me because it was like, whatever. And I said, well, no, this is how I want it done. This is the way I want it done. I've spent hundreds of dollars on the materials for this. I've spent countless hours stitching it. And I'm going to probably spend hundreds of dollars on a custom frame for it. I want to make sure it's done properly. By the time this whole thing is finished, it's probably going to be an $800 project, fully framed and everything. I want to know that it's done properly. Well, the owner of the shop came on and he was like, oh no, we only use sticky board because we can't lace or whatever it was. And I was like, yes, well, I'm sorry, but I won't be using you. I will send it away to be framed by someone that's going to do it the way I want to, if that's what it comes down to. And we only have the one framing shop here in our town. actually in our area, because I don't think there's any further away either. So that is why some of my finished projects are not fully finished, because the numpties here in town can't do it properly. And also it's going to cost me an arm and a leg. I think I might have to sell a kidney on the black market or something to be able to afford to frame, especially my especially that big Indian one. It will cost an absolute packet to frame that one. So that's why most of them aren't fully framed, or fully finished, I should say. That's why I'm going to have to get inventive and try to come up with a few ideas. Anyway, I digress. I'll go back to the subject that I was going to talk about. But when I was saying to the partner about making the big Indian one, Sacred Connections by Charting Creations, when I was saying about making that into a wall hanging, because that is his absolute favourite. He absolutely loves that one, loves it. So, and he goes, no, you can't do that, you need to get it framed. And I said to him, do you know how much it's going to cost to get that framed? And he was like, oh, it can't be too much. And I said, well, just me little horse ones that are like 19 inches by 20 inches or whatever they are. I said, they cost like $300 in themselves to get framed. So that one, which is over 1 metre long by over like nearly 3/4 of a metre wide, that thing's going to cost us like over $1,000 to get framed. And he nearly passed out on me, I think. And so I said to him, well, maybe you need to go to TAFE or something and do a framing course, and that way you can do all my framing for me. But yeah, he was a little bit shocked on the price of that. And yeah, it is kind of ridiculous. Here in Australia, the price that it does cost you for a lot of things. But getting back to what I was getting at with the craft store, when Moira and Mackie, is it Moira? Kay and Mackie. Moira, I think it was, when they owned the craft store, it was brilliant. But that was back in the late 90s. All the oldies that were into it were getting out of it, and a lot of the young ones weren't getting into it. It wasn't the in thing, it wasn't popular, it wasn't the thing to do. You look like a granny, which never worried me. And then, so they closed down, and then we had another little craft store, which it was pretty good too. They had everything, they had all of that sort of stuff as well, but they didn't last. They lasted probably 4 or 5 years before they closed down, and we haven't had a proper craft store since. We've had the big box stores like Lincraft and Spotlight, and they got jack shit in them, to be honest. So I was talking about that with the partner, and I was basically like, if I won the lotto or the lottery, that would be something that I'd do. I would, because cross stitch and needle crafts have had a resurgence in popularity, it is something that I'd do. I would open a craft store and have all the goodies and have everything in there. I'm pretty sure there would be plenty of people around that would travel to my craft store. Well, I'm hoping that they would. But yeah, that would be my ideal job. I always said working in a bookstore because I love to read, or now working in a craft store would be my ideal job. I don't know how much work would get done because, you know, I'd be too busy playing with all the pretties. So I don't think a lot of work would get done, but it would be absolutely amazing, I think. But you got to win the lotto, and that's something that doesn't happen every day. But yeah, that's we were discussing it on one of my chat groups, and we said that it definitely no work could get done, and small businesses generally take the first 5 years to recover their initial outlay anyway. They generally don't make a huge profit in the first 5 years. And we were laughing because we all said, yeah, I don't think my craft store would ever make a profit, because with all the new stuff coming in, all the new patterns and everything, I'd be like, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine. Oh, yep, I'll take that. Oh, I'll put that aside for such and such, and nothing would ever get out on the shelves. I think you'd have to have a very strong, what's that word? Anyway, you'd have to be very, very strong not to want to take everything for yourself and put it up on the shelves for sale. There we go. Might just mark these stitches off before I forget where I'm up to. Oh, actually, I might just finish these 2 rows off, and then I can just quickly mark them. So that's that one, that's that one, that's that one. I don't know how much hair I'll be stitching into this project today. It's coming out of me like nothing. Rightio. I might chat a little bit about my horses. So we've lived on this property for 10 years now. It's just out of town. It's 10 kilometres out of town, so not too far to travel to and from work. Not too far. It's far enough out of town that it's quiet, and we can have a bit of property, but not too far that you're completely out in the sticks, and if anything happens, you're not too far away from emergency services. We do have a housing estate across the road from us, and then on our side it is all rural properties. I think the housing estate, the hobnobs on the housing estate, because they are pretty fancy houses, don't know how well they like the noise of cows and horses whinnying and bellowing, or the smell or anything like that. But as I said, you decided to build across from farms, so you just got to deal with it. But yeah, we used to have 200 acres of farming land, about, I think, an hour out of town it was, where we ran cattle. We were beef cattle producers. It was pretty harsh country. It was bushy, scrubby land here, like up in the mountains in Australia here. And it didn't help that we were going through one of the worst droughts in history. And it was really hard, really, really hard to keep the cattle going. But we managed everything. All the spare money we had went into buying feed for the cattle. And we thought we were getting through it. And the dickhead neighbour over behind us on the mountain, who apparently done it on a regular basis, decided to do some back burning, which gets rid of all the dead, dry grass and leaves and debris, anything that's fallen out of the trees. It just burns it off. He decided that he'd do that, but he didn't have a brake line in it, which meant it went up his side of the mountain, reached the peak, and it came down the other side. And guess who was on the other side? Us. We had nowhere else to take our cattle, so we had to sell them all off. There was no stopping this fire coming down the mountain. There was no access to stop it. We could only try to stop it as it reached our back fence, which was still very, very, very unattainable land up there to get any sort of firefighting equipment up there. So we just watched this fire come roaring down the other side. We got the horses and the cattle off. We found adjustment down here in town for the horses, and we couldn't find anything for the cows. So we had to sell them off. Burnt basically our whole property out, which left us with nothing. Had to replace fences and all that sort of stuff. And coming off the back of a huge drought, it was really hard. It was super, super hard, actually. And that's what broke us. We sold the property. Well, it was actually the father-in-law that owned the property. He sold the property and we all moved back closer to town. We haven't had cattle since. We've had horses. We did get out of horses for about 4 or 5 years. Got out of horses. We both vowed that we wouldn't ever get back into horses, because at that stage Hendra had reared its ugly head, and yeah, we were like, no, because vets were saying we're refusing to come out to your horses to do anything with them, to provide any type of vet care unless they'd been vaccinated. For Hendra, the vaccine wasn't even proven to work. The vaccine didn't stop them from contracting Hendra. It only lowered the symptoms, which means your horse could have had Hendra and been passing it on to anyone and everyone, and you wouldn't know it. Anyway, off that subject, we just said we weren't going to get back into horses. And then one of our friends was selling this darling little filly. She was only 18 months old. Had all the breeding that we loved. She was a gorgeous little filly. The partner turned around one day and said, guess what, I bought a horse. So we got back into horses. We breed paint horses. So for most of you, they are like your American Indian, or your American Indian horses, your Native American horses, your paints. That's what we breed. They've got all the old quarter horse bloodlines, none of the new stuff. We don't like any of the new stuff. The old stuff's all tried and tested. We know their temperaments, their abilities, their everything like that. So that's what we tried to breed along and get. Anyway, so the partner bought this filly, this 18-month-old filly, who didn't have a name, so we named her Charm. That is her paddock name, not her registered name. We still have her. She is, what is she? 10 years old. She's 10 years old. She could be older than that. She might be 11 or 12. Anyway, so we've still got her. She is one of our mares. We also have Donna, who is a big chestnut mare. She's over 15 hands high. She's our oldest mare. She's 21 this year. And she's a gorgeous old girl. She has an attitude on her, but she's a gorgeous old girl. She's I will try to put some photos in here of them if I can find them. So yeah, we've got Donna, who's 21. Then we have, she's a big chestnut mare. Then we have Lily. She is 15. Yes, Lily is 15. She is a dark buckskin. She is the mother of one of our stallions. Donna is the mother of one of our mares that we have retained. So Lily is 15. Then there's Charm, who I've already spoken about, who is 11 or 12, whatever she may be. Then we have the 3 foals that we've retained. I still call them foals, even though they are 7 and 8 years old. So the first one we have is Ruby. She is out of Donna. And she's a chestnut. She's just a plain chestnut mare, full of attitude, because she was babied up from the moment she was born. So we've got the 4 mares, and we have the 2 stallions. So the first stallion is Bundy. He is also 8 years old, and he's out of Lily. The three foals are all by the same stallion, so they're all siblings. So yeah, Bundy's out of Lily. He is actually painted. He is the same colour as his mother, but he's in a paint version. He's my boy. I absolutely love him. From the very moment he was born, he was my horse. He would let me do anything with him. He loves his bum scratches. If I can find a video of him getting his bum scratched, I will add it in. But yeah, he loves his bum scratches. Absolutely loves it. He's one of those horses that you could lead him around by his tail. You could lead him backwards by his tail because he'd just follow you, thinking that you were going to scratch his bum. And for a stallion still has all their bits and bobs. He is so super quiet. The 14-year-old gets out there and feeds him all the time. I have to remind him that you are working with a stallion, so keep your wits about you. They can turn aggressive in no time, but Bundy he's a big sook. I don't think he could hurt a fly, to be honest. And then we have Patch, or his full name is Apache. He is a chestnut paint, and he is out of charm. And he's as dopey as. He's also a full stallion. He's dopey as. You wouldn't even think he was a stallion. Both the boys are better behaved than our mares are, so go figure that. But yeah, the horses are my love. I wish I had more time after work, that I could just get out there and spend more time with them. It makes me so, what can I say? It grounds me. If I'm feeling off, or my anxiety is kicking in, or anything like that, I just go out and spend some time in the paddock, and my horses come over and they nuzzle me and all that sort of stuff and give me hugs, and they just lower my anxiety and make me feel better. So I will put some pictures in of those as well, those horses. They're our current horses. We had others before that, which I've always loved horses. I think every little girl has a period in her life that she loves horses. And my love has just carried through into adulthood. We haven't bred for quite a few years because the market here in Australia is just shit. It's not worth it. People much prefer to go and pay $200 for a crazy racehorse that's just come straight off the track, that's likely to kill their kid, than what they are for something that has good temperament, good bloodlines, good breeding, and all that. They don't even want to pay you the money for them. So we haven't bred for a while. They're just big old paddock ornaments. A lot of people say, why do you have horses? And I always turn around and go, you got a pet dog, don't you? Yeah, we do. Well, why do you have dogs? Oh, because I enjoy having a dog. Well, I enjoy owning horses. Just because I own horses doesn't mean I have to ride them, I have to show them, I have to do anything with them. I just enjoy having them out in the paddock. And that's me. And all my horses are spoilt anyway. I don't get asked to do a lot. And they just do whatever they like in the paddock, and yeah. So nearly finished this row. Once I finish this row, I'll tally up to see how many stitches I've done so far. We are at an hour, so I think just lost where I was stitching. So finish these last 3 stitches off, tally it up, and I will see what. And I think I'll leave it at that. We'll see how many stitches I got. I will show you where I've got to, if you can sort of see. currently using Pattern Keeper on my phone because I usually use Pattern Keeper to on my tablet to stitch with, but I also use my tablet to record all of my floss tube videos, so I couldn't do the two things at once, so I had to download Pattern Keeper onto my phone so I could do some progress on that. Alright, so I have done 243 stitches in an hour. That's pretty good going, but it was all block stitching, so I didn't have to concentrate or look too much at my pattern. So this is where I've got up to. I think I was over here somewhere. If I can, I'll put the comparison where I started over here. So that is where I'm up to with this. I will keep continuing stitching on this tonight once I have edited and uploaded this video. So thank you for joining me on this stitch with me, guys. Thank you for listening to my rambling. I can't remember half the things that I spoke about, so this video may end up shorter because I might go, what the hell were you talking about, woman, and cut that out anyway. But I will add those couple of videos and then a couple of photos on the end if you would like to watch that. For my returning viewers and subscribers, thank you very much for coming back and spending some more time with me. For my new viewers and subscribers, thank you for coming over and spending some time with me and checking out what I've got to offer. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, and if you haven't subscribed, press that subscribe button. Leave any comments down below. I will endeavour to get back to you as soon as I see them. If you got any questions or anything, any suggestions like that for my next stitch with me, I do still have a couple of questions over here that I didn't get to today, which I'll probably do in the next one. But yeah, if you've got any questions or suggestions for topics or anything like that on my next video, leave them down below. I'll make a note of them and get to answering them on my next one. So once again, thank you for joining me on this stitch with me. I hope you got some good stitching in, and I will have my next update on the 27th, which is next Monday. The 27th of June will be my regular floss tube update, and then the week after that will be another stitch with me if I can get around to stitching it. That will be the 4th of July, which will be party time for my American viewers. So yes, thank you for joining me, guys. I'll leave it as that. Wherever you are in the world, take care, stay safe, and happy stitching. See you all next time. Bye.
Claro. What was that you had in here?